indie game garden.
Mateus is from Brazil. He's the solo developer behind Kusppy Studios and only started programming about 8 months ago, which is wild to me considering that his new game, The Last Lodge, is a polished work, it's fun, and it's just a joy to play if you're into horror, and especially if you're into kind of a medieval vibe. In it, you complete chores at a medieval inn while uncovering a spooky secret. I won't say more than that, but wow, it's replayable, utterly stylish, and very well rendered. And from someone who only had, an animation background about 8 months ago and dove into programming headfirst and made this beautiful thing, it's an honor to have Mateus on the show. And I think this conversation in particular is extremely instructive for folks who are looking for inspiration to get started, because if you can follow Mateus's path, you're going to come up with something that I think would make any outside observer and certainly yourself proud. So let's get to it. So Mateus, thank you so much for being here with me today. I would love to hear more about your journey to becoming a developer. You mentioned when we were chatting off mic that you have no coding experience prior to starting out 8 months ago, which is wild to me. That's incredible. I would love to hear more about kind of the progression of learning to code, making a game, and how you managed to pick it all up so fast.
So, my pleasure to be here. It's great. But I had some, the only experience I had with anything programming and software related was Blender. I used to be I'm graduated in an animation course. It's like a 2-year program, not a real graduation, but it gave me enough experience to dabble in Blender and like After Effects and some things like that. So I had some experience with the layouts, some terminology, some things here and there that translated from Blender to Unreal. But the main thing I wanted to do was be an animator, right? So animating does not translate very well to programming in the sense of what I'm doing.
Right.
Visually it has some similarities and some things that can be oh, I've seen this before and things like that, but in the essence of the thing, very different. But in Blender we have something called geometry nodes. I don't know if you've mixed with those. It's basically programming for creating materials, creating things, and I've dabbled in this. I created maybe 2 projects that use them, following tutorials of creating a donut and using geometry nodes, the classics.
Yeah.
So I had some idea. I wasn't completely raw going in,
Yeah.
But it was real superficial stuff. But so I had this idea of being an animator and having this previous knowledge, but I didn't want to work in the industry really.
Yeah.
The animation industry is pretty rough, and with things like AI coming in, it's a bit a sinking ship. I don't want to say like that, but the sensation of going to a work culture that's very crunch heavy, very layoff heavy, it's a bit not the best. So I thought to myself, what can I do to first of all get away from this as fast as possible, but also retain some of the creativity that I want to have, some of the liberties, some ways to express myself in a way that I don't have to answer to someone else.
Yeah.
So that was it was always a thing in my head, create a game, because it's just I can do it myself, and I had some prior knowledge. Yeah. And so I just went to try it out, and I downloaded Unreal. I felt tried some things, some things were similar to Blender, some things were way way off, and it was a very steep learning curve, really. But I had a big focus on running away, so my motivation was big at the time, So that helped a lot. And also I
Mm.
was working like dead jobs. I was a barista and like trying, to pay the bills with things that were like more like realistic, and
Mm.
but it wasn't creative, and it was
Yeah.
like suffering. So that really drove me to try something new. And I guess that like the years and years of like trying 1,000 different softwares and engines and things gave me a little bit of knowledge that could help me with Unreal. It was a shot in the dark, really. It could have not gone well at all.
Yeah. It's amazing that because I hear, stories like that a lot from people who are trying to get into games, who are like, bouncing around and not really sure if they can complete a project. And so it is, I think, wonderful that you were able to do that. And also, I think it speaks to the like uniqueness of the presentation and kind of the blending of genres in The Last Lodge.
Hmm.
It almost like it shows that you have this outsider perspective of like coming in more recently,
Yeah.
but also you're finding the fun and kind of the thrill of a game like the one you've designed so early on in kind of your game making journey that I think it's wonderful. I was like curious what drew you to games as a medium. In particular, I can tell you're a creative person, that is kind of an itch that you're
Hmm.
constantly trying to scratch. And when you decided to move away from animation, or like you said, try to run away from animation,
Yeah.
um, what was the idea of making the pivot to being a solo dev? Because even though a lot of creative industries are hurting right now, it seems like, sometimes people who are pessimists could think that games is, just as much a sinking ship
Yeah.
as animation. So I was wondering, like, what was the optimism? What was the hope there for games?
Well, uh, I really can't tell because the thing was, I knew like massive layoffs were happening, game studios and AI is taking over a bunch of shit. So sorry, can I
Oh,
cuss?
no, no.
I
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
for
the
sure.
thing. I forgot to ask. Uh, but I was like really nervous going into it. So, but I had this thing. Uh, I brainstormed a lot because
Mm-hmm.
my main focus in life is I am a musician. So I know
Mm.
it's really, really hard. Like being a musician
Yeah,
is like one in a million chance. So that is like in the backlogs, and someday I'll get to it. But I needed something like right now.
yeah,
So I started my journey in animation and things and like that and all, and the despair hit, and I thought like I did like this giant brainstorm with like a whiteboard. I have a whiteboard here that like really helps me visualize things, and I was like, what are some things in life that I can like focus in that can give me monetary return, like give me cash because I need to pay my bills,
yeah,
can allow me to express my freedom and my creativity and that sort of thing, and I can be my own boss without like starving for the first like 3 years,
right.
because a lot of things we can be our own bosses. Like can create a company, I can start my own animation business, but the learning curve for those is so abysmally big that I try to avoid. I tried to avoid those really, because like I learned the basics of animation, but animation is something that if it's not perfect, it like clicks. Anyone can recognize a bad animation, like just giving a quick look. It's
Yeah,
very obvious. And so I thought to myself, I have this belt of abilities. Not necessarily they work perfectly for game making, but they help. I can
yeah,
like I had a very like I soundtrack and audio focused mind because I like making music. I knew how to edit videos so I can make a trailer. I knew how to draw so I can make textures and things. So just like trying to find something that could like combine everything, that like it wasn't like obviously I wasn't going to be perfect at it. The game has a lot of flaws, and it's game design flaws and a bunch of like character flaws and programming flaws. It happens, but it's not such like obvious. from the beginning. You know,
Yeah.
I noticed a lot because I was doing it, and a lot of game devs are gonna notice. But like the majority of the public wouldn't notice right away.
Mm.
So I thought to myself, like, what can I do with my skill set, my current skill set that like uses everything, you know? But I needed to make money
Yeah.
first of all. And so I thought to myself, like, the games market is like the biggest in the world. Like
Mm.
I'm not sure of the numbers, but it's like something. The games industry is bigger than Hollywood and everything in money value,
Yeah.
right? So and so I thought it's a market. It's something like there's something there, and also there's a lot of indie devs and things and like solo devs and things that work out, you know. And I don't need to be like the biggest one and like be extremely viral. Now, I saw a bunch of videos of like very unknown and smaller devs that like constantly push out stuff, and they live it with. They live like well enough, you know.
Yeah.
And also, since I'm in Brazil, the real, that's our currency, is like 5.2 to the dollar. So each
Mm.
dollar I earn 5.2 reais. So it's like a big conversion. So I
Yeah.
thought to myself as well, if I earn in dollars, I need to earn less to sustain,
Mm.
like, to pay my bills. so
Yeah.
I was like combining everything. It was all just like, okay, makes sense, you know, like, sorry. It makes sense to go into like this industry because it mixes everything I like, but I'm missing one key component that was programming. I like I have a twin brother, and I studied animation. He studied game dev in
Mm.
college, and I always like relied on him to be my coder, my
Mhm.
developer. But he was very lazy. So I just decided to like ditch him and try to understand on my own. And when
Yeah.
I saw that like it was hard, but it was possible, and then my mindset changed. I was like, well, if I can understand the basics, I can create something with the basics. Will it be the best? Not. Will it be good enough? Maybe. So why
Yeah.
not? You know?
Yeah. That's a kind of rephrasing of some of the, I think, best advice we've heard on this show from other devs, which is like, if you strive for perfection, you're just going to burn out or you're
Yeah.
just going to get discouraged. But the key, which I think you're kind of saying too, is just like make something, and the next thing will be better, and the next thing will be
Yeah.
better. But like you have to start by making something, and the something that you made in the last lodge is so wonderful. Like you say, it's not perfect, but it's telling a
Thanks.
unique story. And like I said, the combination of genres there, I just really loved and found very endearing. I was wondering, like, did you make any prototypes during your learnings, or were you always kind of tinkering on the last lodge and then it eventually became the project that you wanted?
Oh, in reality, I dabbled in like prototypes, but never like committed to a single project enough. Because like my first to second month, it was just like understanding Unreal Project. So I followed a bunch of tutorials. Those ones like they're 5 hours long. Create a first person shooter. Create a third person. Blah blah blah. You know.
Yeah.
I created some of those to understand the basics, and then in my foolish and naive game dev mind, I tried to make something like the dream game, you know, but not the dream game. It wasn't like I wanted to make my open world RPG with 100 and I don't know thousands of endings. I just tried to make something like multiplayer, but I had no
Mm-hmm.
experience. And multiplayer is a pain in the ass, bro.
Yeah.
It's like if you have no experience with Unreal, it's a pain in the ass. So I made some prototypes for like friends lop games like
Yeah.
Lethal Company, or like some more horror inspired stuff like Devour. No, because it's
Mm-hmm.
something like it sells. We know it sells.
Yeah.
It's a good market to tap into, but it's hard. So
Yeah.
I learned a lot by trying those. But one moment I just said with myself, and I was like, I'm not finishing this in less than like 2 years, but I have
Yeah.
to pay my bills. And the thing is, since I'm very new, probably what's gonna happen is like in 1 year I'm gonna notice that it's all shit. All code is bad. All code is like spaghetti noodle and things, and everything breaks, and I'm gonna give up. So I had
Yeah.
to make like the realistic choice and like tone it back a lot and find
Mm.
something that is easier. Like it's first of all single player game, right? It's by toning it down the single player aspect. Instantly my life was easier, like a
Mm.
lot easier, a lot.
Yeah.
And so I tried like I watch a lot of like horror game YouTubers, right? Obviously,
Hmm.
and I was like watching some people like play games like Kiosk, the Boba Tea Shop, and some things like that work simulator that mixes with horror. And I was like, I can make something like that, not like exactly, but
Yeah.
maybe since I'm not as a competent dev as I am that those people are, I can like uh, make the other aspects of the game a little bit better. You know,
Mm.
like I play the games and I like them, but they weren't particularly scary to me at least. So I
Mm.
tried to make something that was a little more like ambience focused, that you were like tense all the whole time, even though the mechanics of the game aren't as polished as the others. You know,
Mm.
you just try to compensate in things that you're not as good as the other. Since
Mm.
I'm alone, I can't like uh, when I say I'm alone, I have a group of friends that like help me. You know, they don't help me, but I talk to them and they give me feedback and something. It's really important. And people that have
Yeah.
a like mind with horror, with games in general. And so we sat down, we play those games, and we were like, what can I do better?
Mm.
And what will I probably be worse at?
Yeah.
So since I'm a new dev, probably my mechanics and things like that are going to be like a little bit rough around the edges.
Hmm.
But I have like this thing for music, for ambience, for like storytelling that maybe the other devs didn't have. They
Mm.
could have. I'm not talking to like anyone specifically, but
Yeah.
in this case, or for my inspirations, I could see that some things I think I could do a little bit better, and like one
Yeah.
percent better. Doesn't have to be like 1,000% better. And so I rolled with it. It was really just like a thing. It's not impossible, and I can make something better. So that's all I needed. It was just like, okay, by being possible and being reachable, attainable within my current skill set, I think it's feasible. You know, it's not like so far fetched to think that I can't make something,
Right.
even though I have the skills, like most of the skills necessary.
It's interesting to hear you say that you started with this idea that was like bigger than what you ended with, because I think a lot of the time that's where people would just be like, I can't do this, and like push away from their desk and stop. But it sounds like for you, it almost had the effect of like training with like a weighted vest on. And then when you take
Yeah,
the vest off, it's like, wow,
yeah,
like scoping this in a smaller sense makes it way easier, way more manageable. And I also think it's like, it has provided, having the scope be relatively small, it has provided a space, like you said, where some of the skills that you do have that are unique and already at a high level can like come out more. Like I was really
yeah,
impressed by, you can like walk out of the little in area that you're kind of operating in and walk into the forest, and just like one of my favorite things to do in the game was just like walk around the forest and see how like beautifully rendered it all was, even though a lot of players won't spend more than a few
yeah.
moments there. And I thought touches like that were really beautiful and indicative of your process. I was wondering like what drew you to creating the Last Lodge, as far as the theme, the tone, the kind of whole story that's going on. Because it's a medieval horror game where you're running an inn. It's like very niche in that sense. And it is, as you said, kind of a new take on some of the horror job simulators that you had
Mm.
watched and played. Um, did it come together as like just a snap of inspiration as far as the setting? Or was it something you kind of played with over time?
Well, uh, like both to some
Mm-hmm.
degree, but mainly like I really like history, like every
Mm.
single type of history, especially medieval or like Renaissance or the golden age of piracy. I love those types of things, like these themes that are we know so much about, but we don't know anything about, at the same time.
Right.
Like it really intrigues me, and the feeling of like being someone in that time but not being like a holy knight or the king, it's something that intrigues me because most of us would be like an innkeeper or a
Yeah.
serf or a peasant.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea to look through those lenses always had like me in a grasp, like
Yeah.
movies and games and things like that. I try to explore that side of things. I like a lot, like it, like really hold me, and the realism of the things, like it's very mundane.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
it's not like fantastical and everything, but I was also like, for example, I love the Witcher series. I love the Witcher
Mm-hmm.
series. It's great. It's one of my favorite games. But I always like to think, what if I was one of the the civilians that had to deal with like corpse eaters? I don't remember those names. It's been
Yeah.
ages since I played, but bro, life would suck. So I tried to see like, okay, imagine I'm an innkeeper and I had to deal with something like demonic,
Yeah.
and it like always and it grew from this. I had this like
Mm-hmm.
theme, like I want to do something medieval. It's what I like. So
Yeah.
it's like a safe space for me, really. It's the
Mm.
type of history I enjoy. It's the thing I like to research about. A lot of research I put a lot of research into like time specific food, time specific clothing. It's something I enjoy. It's something that gives me
Yeah.
pleasure to like research about. I was always almost a history major, but I
Mm.
wanted to have some money. So, so I pivoted,
Yeah.
but it was something that gave me pleasure. So I tried to find something that would fit inside what I like wanted to see, and but also something that could be fun. But
Mm-hmm.
so I really like hunting and ghosts and spirits and demons. I like those things as well. Like I
Yeah.
really like fantasy things, but not when it's just that.
Yeah.
So I try to fix like to mix those things. Like, what would it be? What would it be like to be a civilian in a medieval era that had monsters? And so
Yeah.
like that was just the idea. So I started doing prototypes of the gameplay, like a loop of just serving customers and like filling cups, and slowly things started like uh, how to say panning out. Things started to,
Yeah.
to fit in place. I had a lot of problems with that, like because I went into like I followed the path of the game, and then like 3 months in I was like, mm, I don't think this fits anymore. So I had to like
Mm.
track back and remove things and change. But like it worked. Like sometimes if you try to plan everything like so to the bare minimum details, you have like paralysis by analysis. So I just
Yeah.
tried to be like a mix. I wanted to,
Yeah.
like the theme was like very. I knew what I wanted with the team, but the exact path was like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll figure it out. Maybe I don't, but we'll see.
Yeah. And I think that that is a really important part of the description that you mentioned, I think, is like, especially for the first game project, you married like tone and story and a historical period that already kind of fascinated you. And
Mhm.
that, I'm sure, made like going back to the game day after day a lot less tedious because you were immersing yourself in something, like you said, that
Absolutely,
already gives you
absolutely,
pleasure.
yeah.
And I was wondering, like, especially in contrast to, some of the other projects you had attempted, like, was that something that was big for you during development, like just enjoying being in the place you were building?
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Burnout is something we have to be like extremely careful of. Like, if you like, there's a point in like the game dev journey in any project, really, not a game dev, that you just saturate. It's too much.
Yeah.
You've done too much. You've seen that thing like 1,000 times for the last 1,000 days, and it's just like you start to go crazy.
Yeah.
So if you don't like the idea in the first place, there's nothing holding you. So the first game I tried was like I don't remember, but it was like a multiplayer horror game that you were like a monkey, and it's like I liked it. It was funny, but it like didn't captivate my attention and all everything. It was okay. So
Yeah.
I was so fast to give up because it didn't really held me. Like it wasn't something that I really enjoyed and really wanted to see. It's just something cool, I guess.
Yeah.
So going back to something that was always something I really enjoyed, it was like at least the setting is something that makes me comfortable. I like to see, and something that like captivates my attention, and the ideas still flow. You know,
Yeah.
because it was something like, for example, in Brazilian history, we have a, a period here that I don't exactly like love. That was like when the country was discovered and all the things with the explorers. No, it's okay,
Mm.
but I wouldn't make a game about it because it's
Yeah.
not, you know, like it could be a great game, and it's very important history and everything is it's important, but it's not my cup of tea. So if I
Right.
had to come back into something with that setting every day, you know, the game
Yeah.
wouldn't exist. It wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Oops. It's just it would I would like get so fed up with it like in 2 months that the game wouldn't go to completion, and like
Yeah.
searching about it wouldn't give me half the pleasure that searching about this one gave me. And a lot of like the process of a game dev is just like researching and having ideas and writing things down, you know. So when I was in the gym, like walking the treadmill, things would like come up, you know.
Yeah.
No, maybe this would work better. No, maybe this would work better. And if I was like hating the project, I wouldn't even think about it at
Right.
all. So things wouldn't come and wouldn't fit in place like they fell in place for this game.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really beautiful. I think it speaks to another, like, yet another advantage of, uniting your interests in like animation and music in games, in that you can also bring in, things that you enjoy outside of those things to make the game. I was wondering, like, I know you mentioned you have your whiteboard, your visual. What was the narrative design for the game like? Because it has multiple endings, and I imagine
Mhm.
there's a lot to keep track of as you're like
Yeah.
tracking each narrative through, to completion. And so I was wondering, like, how did you go about writing it?
Well, first of all, the multiple endings wasn't like the definitive like aspect of the game. At
Hmm.
first, it wouldn't have. It would be just like the other games I mentioned. That it's just like a linear story.
Hmm.
So I started like nothing would like change. So it was like I said, I focused on a path, and like in the middle of the way, I was just like, maybe that's not what I want. So my writing path is not recommended really because it wasn't planned at all. I was just going through the motions for the game and like the themes and the vibes and all that. But then I felt like something was missing. It was just too linear, and like things that are too linear, like some people like it.
Hmm.
No shade at all. I like some linear experiences also, but it's not my cup of tea. I
Hmm.
like I love Telltale games, for example, where you
Hmm.
have to choose, and like moral choices make such an impact, even with when the choices are fake. You know, the
Yeah.
moment the thing it puts you on, like that thing, maybe this has an effect, maybe this doesn't. It's itself for me good enough.
Yeah.
So by like writing dialogue and trying to understand where my head was taking the story, eventually I got to like a crossroads. There was like, I need to make something else, you know,
Mm.
just that's not just like you serve customers and you have a jump scare. I wanted to have something like that people have to stop and think and be like, what what should I do? What can I do? And no, have this just stop and think for a moment and have to like evaluate things. I like that like pressure, you know?
Yeah.
So by that I just like took the story that I had in mind, and then I thought like, what could be the endings, really? And then I make like a little tree, right? I'm using like an app that is
Mm.
useful for note taking. That's sponsored Milanote. Milanote, I don't know if you know it. It's like it has like this nodes and blocks and things that you can like trace arrows and things, and it's been really helpful because
Oh, cool.
I had like this idea, like this is the start, and this is are the like these are the endings. I wanted to have four endings like the game, and so I thought like, what should the player do to
Mm.
reach the desired goal, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I went from there. It's like some people like to start from the beginning and just like follow the paths. I know it's very useful, but in my like saturated and very fed up with a lot of things, I had to be like more objective, you know?
Yeah.
I had like, I need a plan, I need an objective, and I need to find a way to reach it. So
Mm.
that's what I did. I wrote also in my in my whiteboards like, what are the paths, what are the choices, and what choices lead to each path, and that's it, you know. And maybe it wasn't the best way, but it was the way I found. So you
Yeah.
know, if it works, it works.
Yeah, and I think that that's really heartening to hear as well because it shows that again going back to the idea of you just have to start a project, like you just have to
Yeah,
make something. I think folks who try to have it all planned out beforehand can get burnt
yeah,
out before you're even like
yeah,
putting pen to
absolutely.
paper, and so that's really cool to hear that some of your plan was more mapped out, but then a lot of it was
Yeah.
just as I go I'm building more stuff in, and we'll
Wing
kind
it,
of
just wing it.
yeah build the plane as we fly it. And I think it
Yeah.
it again you came out with something super successful, so that's again really heartening to hear. I was curious also about your like visual sense in the
Mm,
last lodge. It has kind of a grainy, like lower poly aesthetic.
mhm.
Um, Particularly like with the faces, they look a lot like, PS1 style faces of
Yeah.
it being like an uncanny valley and having a texture kind of stretched over.
Mhm.
And I was wondering what you find like the merits of this art style to be. What do you like about it? And how did this choice influence your design of the game, if at all?
Well, like mainly, like first of all, it was like make like an objective choice of like minimizing a lot of texturing work and not a lot of like realistic texturing, and I had to be like really picky about what I would put all of my attention into.
Yeah.
So most horror games nowadays, not most, but like a lot of indie games right now have this like PS1, PSX type of
Hmm.
style. And by instinct, I thought maybe it would fit. So I
Hmm.
tried it out. It fit, but I didn't like exactly how, you know, how most like the faces they turned out. I found like too cartoony,
Mm.
but I didn't want to like be too cartoony and didn't want to be too realistic. So I tried to find like a middle ground in which I could implement a technique for like putting my friends in the games. So like there are two characters in the game. There's just my friends. I took photos of their face, scanned their whole face, and put them in the game. And like by trying to work with those limitations, why I don't want to go too much into like creating those textures, but I also don't want to have like two black dots as eyes and just like a line.
Right.
It can work, but I also want to have like a touch of realism, but not too much.
Mm.
And so I tried to find something that would fit that. And that was mostly like the PS1 style, which you would take a photo, stretch it out and just paste it into a face,
Mm.
And like I used some asset packs for like clothes and things like that. And they had a really high density poly count, very detailed clothes and all. And if I try to like mix that type of style, well, like very high poly, very detailed with a single very simple face, it would just be weird. It
Yeah.
wouldn't fit. So I tried to find something that was like the middle ground with that. So I got the pictures, I put on a pixel filter, and I tried to simplify it a little bit so that the like the the features were realistic enough and you could understand, but it wasn't just like a dot, you know. So
Yeah.
it's just finding the middle ground in between like what I wanted and what I can do. It's always
Mm,
like the for me the ideal standard is like I want this, I can do this. What's the best option, really?
right.
You know. And also
Yeah.
there's another thing like about the grainy look. It makes you uncomfortable. Like
Yeah.
it can make you really like nostalgic and like very comfy, but at the same time it can make you like really uncomfortable and like tense every time you don't see everything, you know. You can see sometimes some things in the shadows that are just like 4 pixels moving. And
Yeah.
what was that? I don't know. Some people got really scared by like grass blowing in the wind because you can't understand exactly what you're looking at. So it
Yeah.
was also like a narrative choice, you know.
Yeah. Uh, that is very insightful as far as how you were able to, again, a blending of styles to create something coherent rather than,
Mhm.
having to have it all be lined up before you started, right? Because it sounds like you've iterated on the faces and you've ended up with something that, again, like, I can't say enough how, like, unique it looks. Because, like you said, you do have the higher poly count like clothes, and some things look very realistic.
Mhm.
Even like, even though it's static and not necessarily like sloshing out of the tankard or whatever, like the beer and stuff looks like, a lot of things look kind of how we would imagine them, and then some things look very uncanny, and I think that that's perfect for kind of the tone you were going for, and so I love how that came together. I think another really important thing that you mentioned that I just want to like double click on is how like finding the average between what you wish you could have and what you can do, I think is a beautiful way to look at making something. Because I think a lot of folks who are trying, especially for the first time, second time, um, will try to make the thing that they have imagined. And if they can't, they consider it a failure. And I think that
Yeah.
that is so destructive to the creative process, particularly in games when there are so many moving elements.
Mhm.
So I think that that's great advice. I was wondering, as far as the marketing side or the idea of making this a commercial product, were you envisioning an audience when you were designing the last lodge, or did you make it primarily to fulfill something that just would appeal to you or a creative drive within you?
Yes to both, you know, a mix of
Yeah.
both as always, an average. Like I wanted to make something that I would like to play.
Yeah.
I didn't need to love it because like work simulators are not my like my highlight of like the things I love to play, but I
Yeah.
like them. You know, it's good enough, and I like horror settings. But the main objective, like with this type of game and this game in specific, was the idea that someone would play. It's obvious. We
Yeah.
make games for so people can play. We make games so you can sell and people can play, and maybe you can fund something that can be like closer to your like envisioned reality. You know, someday
Yeah.
if like I have funding enough, I can make my dream game. Not
Yeah.
today because I need to pay my rent. So things were like I had the target of the audience that was like first of all and obvious like people who love horror games, people who like work simulators, and people who like cozy cooking games, right? Because
Mm.
it's not a cooking game but it's also a cooking game, it's not a cozy game but it's also a cooking game, you know. So
Yeah.
also a mix of everything that I wanted to see. But like I didn't want to focus a lot on marketing because it's not
Hmm.
my area and I know it takes a lot of time, a lot of patience, a lot of like knowledge and research. So I wanted to do something that I could like create, and maybe some like by like just having the game out there, someone can find it, someone can play it, and like horror YouTubers are like that, you know.
Yeah.
Like there's always like a high demand for like new games and new horror games and new experiences.
Hmm.
So I thought to myself, like by combining what I wanted and what I needed, uh, again, I tried to find like a middle ground. Like if I create something that I like and that's the other people might need, there's like a great like a middle ground that like something that I can do. So
Right.
that's exactly what I did. Like I created a no marketing strategy. I didn't create the game like the Steam page like months prior. I didn't have a lot of wish lists. I think I posted the game. I had like 45 wish lists.
Hmm.
It's like, and people say you have to have like 7,000.
Yeah.
Of course, I didn't make like thousands of dollars and things, but by like just posting the game and like letting people do their thing, and play their games, and like people recommend, and like so just by like mouth to mouth marketing, a lot of people play the game, and some streamers played, some YouTubers played, and like the my idea was just that, let
Yeah.
the game like speak for itself, and eventually someone will find it. It's not the ideal, it's not perfect, I know. I should
Yeah.
make a marketing campaign. The most just to say that I didn't do anything, I got a list of like 150 influencers in the genre, and I sent them Steam
Hmm.
copies, like
Nice.
15 of them like activated, but some made videos, and they boost a little bit of sales, I did something. But
Yeah.
my main strategy was just do what's missing, or what, something that never really stops being a demand, you know
Yeah. And you make a good point also about how it speaks to the importance of being a fan and being engaged in like
yeah.
what you enjoy in the game scene too, because you wouldn't have known where to send things, you wouldn't have known like what the appetite for a game like the one you made would be if you weren't already watching
Mhm.
those videos, already playing those types of games, and having a hand on the ball in that sense. So
And
I
another
think,
thing I'd like
yeah.
to add about this specifically, that we were talking about motivation and like burnout and all those things. Having a game like in my mind, at first it was like I need money, of course,
Yeah.
but then when I started like getting closer to the end, I was like thinking about what people could play my game, and that gave me like a huge boost of inspiration, because I
Mm,
was like, well, maybe the guys I've been watching since I'm like 10 years old would play my game, and the thing
yeah.
that like this would give me more like happiness and like accomplishment than just like selling 50,000 copies maybe, so
Yeah.
that helped a lot, like thinking about, I don't know, like Markiplier, if Markiplier played my game, bro, I would just sit there and he was like, oh my god, and maybe that means more to some people than others, like, but for me, I'm a huge fan. So
Yeah.
having this in my mind, that's maybe by creating something and putting it out, maybe some of them would play, huge motivation boost, huge.
Yeah, that's really cool. And it, factors into that same point of being a fan and engaging in the
Yeah,
community can have unseen benefits when it comes to the sorts of things in design and shipping a game that we don't always think about on the
yeah.
surface. Um, if you could give some advice to someone who thinks that programming games for them is out of reach, or making games out of reach for them, what would it be? Maybe someone who wishes they could make a game, but doesn't know where to start.
Well, I'm gonna say the same thing like I said the whole interview, that is just find the middle ground, if you have like genuine interest and passion, you can find a way to understand at least the basics, you know
Yeah.
like things are hard. It's very easy to sit here and say like, well, it was simple, just 6 months of like my time and I made a game, but it's not like that. It's really
Yeah.
not like that. Sometimes you think about it quitting, you think about like giving up and like going back to being a barista, because you used to pay the bills like that. But there's a desire to do things that are different,
Hmm.
so if you really want and you really have like this desire, you have to like sacrifice things and like understand that you have to learn things and you will have to adapt,
Yeah.
at least in the minimum, so the thing is what I've been saying. You have to find something you like and you care about, that it will keep you motivated. Maybe use the thing like YouTubers like as motivation, and it helped me, it could help other people. And
Hmm.
also start making games. I know it's a
Yeah.
very like overused phrase nowadays, like just make a game, just make a project, but it's real. Like if I, for example, someone that has like zero experience right now, as I wasn't zero, but let's say I had 5% experience,
Yeah.
start just understanding the engine and what things mean, inside. Create like start doing those tutorials. People do like nowadays tutorials are just like so good. You just
Yeah.
like you just follow step by step and you have a game. And
Yeah.
by finishing that first game, I was like, well, I followed the tutorial, yes, but I did it, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
possible. Like if I'm able to like get this like base I created with those tutorials and just like change it slightly, I can create something that's mine.
Right.
So I tried to understand like the logic of things. Like, okay, I have this first person template that I created. It works absolutely nothing in my new game, but I was able to understand why did that thing work when I click this button. I can
Mm.
see the blueprint, right? So I try to like adapt, and by creating those types of like mental adaptations, right? I was
Mm-hmm.
able to like understand like, well, something that I do will make this that I want be caused by this, and that's all I needed.
Yeah.
How long would that would take to like create the pathway, understand what I needed really to do? Then throw it to the wind. Maybe
Yeah.
one day I'll find it, maybe one day I won't. But if I'm not able to find that, then I have to compromise and like let that thing go and find something that I can do. That's what I
Mm.
did. Like I had like, if I had to think about the last lodge right now and like things I wanted to create, bro, like so much. I had so many ideas, so many characters and interactions and choices. But I knew that if I wanted to create the game really and like set it to the world, I needed to
Mm.
compromise in some things. So I
Yeah.
had to sacrifice a bunch of characters, a bunch of dialogues, and a bunch of things. And that's like the learning process, right? I wanted
Yeah.
to do something, but I didn't have all the skills necessary. So I just started from the basics. And I just started from the basics, and eventually I'll just like adapt things, and I found the middle grounds, and that's it. Like
Yeah.
learning is just about that, like repetition and like focus.
Yeah. And
Eventually
when
you find a
you
way.
Yeah, and when you can get into a type of routine as well, it doesn't feel
Yeah,
as scary.
yeah,
Starting out, it's
exactly.
like, how am I going to make time for
Yeah,
this? Or is it going to, yeah.
that just remember me. I have like, it's not. Oh yeah, it's here. I have this
At this point in the interview, Mateus picks up his day planner.
was like my best friend like throughout the whole game. Like I created a lot of like iterations and things and ideas and put it in here. But what would help me the most, that you mentioned like a routine, was I would like at the end of the day, like I was about to go to sleep, I thought about what could I do the
Mm.
next day, because my most productive period is like in the morning to the beginning of the afternoon, right? So I
Hmm.
thought like, what can I do in that time? And in the beginning would be like just like create a variable, create a character, or just like create the blueprint class.
Hmm.
And like slowly things would start to like get bigger. Like in the beginning was just like create a blueprint class, but then it would be like something like create a door, an
Mm.
interactable door, create an interaction system. And like by getting a lot of tutorials here and there and implementing and changing things to fit my game, slowly but surely things were like create finishing the finishing scene number one, create the ending number one, create ending number two. So things just like when you get into the routine of understanding what you're working with, things get so much easier. But you
Yeah.
have to start slow, very, very slow. At the beginning, I was like, what the fuck is a variable? I mean, what the fuck? I was just like, what is a function? What is a variable? What I don't understand. It's like a new language. But as slowly but surely, I just tried creating new things and understanding what each like thing would do, what was a boolean.
Yeah.
And things start like falling in place slowly but surely, because you take like
Yeah.
baby steps, but always with that focus in mind, that like that I want to make something with this. It's not just learning for learning, you know
Yeah.
the best way I learn things is by doing projects. Learning with a project behind in it, like in your focus, is the best thing you can do. Especially
Mm.
if you're like creative and you want to create things, you have to have a focus.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really important advice. And I was wondering, like, with your day planner, you said, did you just like write things you were going to do for the next day in it, or was it more like you were writing tasks out each week, or a little bit of both?
I had both. I had like
Yeah.
a month planner, like what I wanted to do in that month. Like I had like in this month, I want to create 25 characters. I want to create like all the drinks and all the choices, you know, that's what I wanted to do. So I started like slowly, where can I start that in a daily basis, right? So I had like, tomorrow I want to create one character and one dialogue. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just a simple like checklist, you know, just I wrote the thing and I gave a little check when it ended. It's the little dopamine boost, like, you know, checking things off, you know, just
Yeah.
keeping track of progress. But it was like this. I had like this huge list of things I needed to do to the game so the game could be finished. But I need the daily tasks were the most important of all, you know, just being able to keep track of what you're doing day to day was like what made me keep going, you know, because
Yeah.
when I was like, no, today I'm really tired, I worked a lot or I didn't sleep well, I could see in the like the daily task and like what was easier, you know, what can I
Yeah.
do like without thinking too much. I can just listen to some music or have some podcast or I don't know, Critical Role playing in my left ear, you know, anything like very simple, and
Yeah.
that's it. But in the days that I felt a little bit more competent, I guess, I started like diving a little deeper, and that's what helped me, you know,
Yeah,
having
it sounds
both.
like you were really realistic about your process and also your capacity on each day, which is super
Yeah,
important. You're not going to be the same each day depending on sleep and how you're feeling.
yeah.
We all go through different cycles. You make games in Brazil, which is, for a while has been a hub of creativity and game development in South America. I was wondering if you had anything to share about like games coming out of Brazil or the Brazilian gaming community that you wanted to share with my listeners, or if you're just like, I don't know, that's what some of my guests say, and that's totally fine too. I just wanted to create space for it.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't know, because honestly, I'm just like I have a lot of friends, Brazilian friends, and I live with them daily and I play with them daily. But it's like some of them are in the game industry, most aren't, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and like Brazilian people are very creative, and we have a lot
Mm.
of ways to solve problems like in different ways, you know. So I
Mm.
think Brazil has a lot of potential for like creating like very innovative, a lot of things coming out from Brazilian games, like
Yeah.
some simulators, funny simulators, some horror games, you know, things are great, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they have a lot of potential. But I'm just not like as deep in the community as I wanted to.
Yeah.
I know about like one other developer, like by name, right? That is a guy that's creating like the Brazilian Silent Hill, that is Comatose.
Mm.
It's great. You know, the guy's making like a lot of progress and creating a lot of hype around the game in the community because it's all set in Brazil. You know, it's in the favelas of Rio de Janeiro with
Yeah.
a Silent Hill vibe. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
I want to
That's so
see that. You
cool.
know, so it's creative. You know, I'm not very like deep into, so I can't say speak for others, but I think like
Yeah.
if we were able to like tap in and focus, you know, we there's a lot of things that like that would be great from Brazil. But the main problem here is just that the financial aspect of being a Brazilian is a bit rough, you know,
Yeah.
because things are very expensive and like our
Mm.
minimum wage barely like covers our like cost of living, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
many people who would be able to create like masterpieces are working as baristas, you know, because they don't have the time and and money, you
Yeah.
know. So it's a bit sad, but you know, we keep on trying, you know. I was lucky because I was able to like let go of my day-to-day job and go back to living with my mom, so I could
Mm.
like focus on this project, you know, because I just didn't want to stay in there forever. Some people don't
Yeah.
have the chance, you know, but we people persevere, right? We find some like competitions and like some game jams and some things, you know. Eventually, I hope like the economical situation becomes a little better and people have a little bit of more freedom to create, you know. It
Yeah.
would be very 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 good to see, and cool, it would be cool to see like Brazilian creativity has like absolutely no limits, bro. It's like it's absurd.
That's awesome to hear. Yeah, and it's another reason like why I'm super excited to talk to, small devs like you, small creators like you, because the more we can do to support, individual by individual, I think the more that community can grow. So
Yeah.
that's great to hear. I was wondering, what's something that keeps you whole and feeling excited about life outside of games? Is it music? Is it another hobby? What's something that you do that makes you happy?
A couple of things, really. First of all, my babies.
Mateus reaches to pick up his cat. Oh, yeah, you have some
My
cats back
baby.
there.
This is Tobias. He's like
Aw.
in the game. There's Theobald, right?
Yeah.
Theobald is a mix of my two cats. That's Tobias and Theodora. So
Aw.
I got the. We have like this nickname for Tobias that is Theobald. So I got his name. I got my other cat's appearance that she's an orange cat. So I mixed that, and like just seeing them day to day and playing with them and having them around like really gives me a lot of motivation just to be alive, I guess,
Yeah.
Also, I really like music. So
Hmm.
like creating the music for the last lodge, I just did it like in an afternoon. I created like the little song for the trailer, and it was like I didn't like focus enough, and because I was already like at my limit with that game specifically. But it also helped like having the idea, just I can make things, I can create music, and I can like have another creative outlet. Helps a lot.
Right.
Also, like taking care of my like health, going to the
Yeah.
gym, walking, like seeing sun, talking to people. Sometimes as game devs, we are like very independent, right? We don't talk a lot. We just sit in our rooms every day, all day, talking to maybe sometimes people in Discord, and
Yeah.
it's very long. It can get very lonely, and if you just stick to that like your whole life, you will burn out, you will get sad, and you will give up on the things you love. So
Yeah.
having people in your daily life really help. I have a girlfriend that like helped me a lot, just by being there and like being like having faith in me,
Yeah.
like she works a job, and like if I said like, well, I gave up my job to maybe like pursue something else, and I don't have a lot of money, and she was like, that's okay, I can pay
Yeah.
for our date,
Aw.
I can drive us around. And I was like, thanks, I love you.
Yeah.
And and maybe when like things get better financially, I can like pay her back,
Yeah.
we hope. But that's like having like a safety net, right? Having people around you, it's like very important. My family has been a lot of my safety net nowadays. So just, I know it's easy to be like alone and like the lone wolf, and like, but it's not good, really. Sometimes it's necessary, obviously, to have your own space, to be alone, to think, to sit with your own thoughts, but it's not needed every time and every day in all your life, So my recommendation, my biggest recommendation for people is like, work hard, be like centered and like get obsessed with the thing, but don't forget your life, don't forget your friends, don't forget your family, just get out of your house in the weekends, in the weekends, go out, go see
Yeah.
a movie, go to the park, go swimming. I don't know, doesn't really matter. You just need to like not be so obsessed with things that you forget your life. And that's
Yeah.
like my main advice and things. And what made me like feel like I could do it was just still living a normal life, trying
Yeah.
my best to take care of myself, of my relationships, of my cats, and just trying to follow what's normal,
Yeah, and it's so important also to hear that, because it's another way that you can stave off burnout, just like you said, to
Yeah.
not be so wrapped up in the thing that when, on the day where you're feeling more tired or like you can't work or whatever, that your whole motivation comes crashing down. You have this more interconnected ecosystem outside of the game
Yeah.
that fuels the development.
Exactly,
I
yeah.
think that's really important to hear. Just a couple more questions here. I know we're getting close to the hour, and I want to be respectful of your time.
No problem.
What would you say like your biggest influences are in game design? I would love to hear like specific, titles of games or specific creators or what have you, if you have any to mention.
Okay, so like first of all, like my biggest inspirations are like nowhere near achievable for me at the moment, right? since like I mentioned, like I love the Witcher series. Like
Mm,
for me, it mixes a lot of things that I really like, the action, but most importantly, like the choices and the like impact between in like choices and dialogues and the profundity, like the depth of the
yep.
characters. That's the thing that like motivates me most, more than almost anything, I think.
Mm,
Because for me, like I love playing like shallow games and like competitive online games. I love playing CS with my friends. It's cool. But when I want to like get into a game and like focus in it and like get immersed in the world, that's what like makes me feel immersed. It's having those connections. So the obvious, like I mentioned also as well, like the Telltale series, especially the Walking Dead series. I played them when I was like 14, I think, maybe 13, I guess. I don't really remember, but those games like left such a scar on my head, and like of like on my brain, that I was like, bro, I feel for those characters. Those the choices they make, they are real, and when they die, it's real because I won't see them anymore. So that type of thing like really motivates me to like get into a game and like live the game. And also for the most realistic types of things, I have like I have the Brazilian dev that was making Comatose. It's really good to see someone like in a similar path. Helps a lot. And he's doing devlogs, so like, and he's working on a real creating a horror game, so he's going to have like a massive success, I know, because he's having like a lot of community and a lot of things that I don't have because I didn't work for that specifically, right? But it's like very cool to see someone on the same path, very cool. And also, yeah, just like hearing and seeing like indie dev stories and playing their games and understanding the mechanics behind, like, really helped me ground, keep be grounded, I guess. Really helped me. So my main inspirations are a bit big. But just like I said, like my main inspirations, my close inspirations, there's someone in the middle, someone that like there's that's living almost your same story, just like parallel in another way, and you can like reflect with them, just like looking at the mirror. And that's it, just like being able to find like the middle ground of like biggest inspirations and also grounded inspirations, and just understanding what do you want to have from this and what do you want to have from this, and finding the middle ground, as always.
Yeah. I love that that is the through line in a lot of our questions here
Yeah,
is being realistic about scope, but also like carrying the inspiration and joy that you get
yeah.
about, dreaming bigger through into the
it,
project.
it's all about balance.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, I was just saying, like, I think it shows through in a game like The Last Lodge, because while, as we've talked about, a lot of what's there is like a simplified version of all the things you were interested in.
Yeah,
um I like playing it, I certainly could tell that there was like a larger vision for a world that was
yeah.
going on, and so I'm sure that was the research, that was the influences, that was all these things that give the game a special quality. Speaking of games designed by you, last question here. I was just wondering, like, if you had anything to say about what's next for you, making
Oh
another
yeah,
game, doing something else, a different
absolutely.
project. What's
Yeah.
up?
I'm currently just waiting for a game jam that's gonna happen in the 1st of April. That's like of another YouTuber named Gunscreen. He's gonna create a
Mm,
game jam, and I want to participate in it. It's
yeah,
it's like the perfect window since the release from the Last Lodge, and I in my like kind of like vacation. I'm just like
yeah,
trying to relax a little bit. So I'm gonna participate in a little game jam, but after I have already a new game planned. And just like I mentioned, like with the Telltale thing, I want to be like more. I'm gonna create a game more like narrative and like more dialogue driven. More less characters but more depth. So I'm
yeah,
trying. I'm thinking. I'm not gonna like say everything because I'm not sure. But just like I said,
yeah.
I'm just like figuring things out. But I want to make something now more in the like golden age of piracy. I love the
Oh,
thing.
cool.
I love
Yeah.
the thing. The thing of like the realistic side of being a pirate sucks ass.
Yeah.
So just like being there and like suffering, it's like it's really appealing to me, just to like people really did that, no? it's like crazy, just to be in a ship for like your whole life almost, like suffering and eating like rotten food. It's rough.
Yeah.
But I like I really like to enjoy what it could have been.
Yeah.
So the main idea right now is just find something more narrative driven, something in the middle way of Telltale and my last game, and just do something very like emotion heavy.
Yeah.
And this time around, I'm not completely alone. I have now that I launched. After you launch things, people love to join in. During the first process, no one wants because I don't have time and I don't know. But now that there's money involved, everyone wants to join. So now my brother is joining, and another friend of mine, and another. I'm not sure if she's gonna join, but she's very busy. But I have maybe something that was going to help me with the dialogue, with the story, and the depth and the things. My other friend's gonna help me with animations, and my brother is gonna do like all the modeling and texturing and things. And I'm gonna to be able like just to focus like 80% and on just creating the game. So it's a bit relieving.
Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, that's like those are the plans.
Thank you so much for your time today. It was wonderful chatting and hearing your perspective. And for folks who are listening that want to get more involved and support Mateus, you can go buy The Last Lodge on Steam right now. It's a wonderful game, and I'll put the wish list in, or not the wish list, but the link to the game in the show notes so folks can do that easily. Is there any other things you want to plug, like places folks can follow you or something along those lines, or just buy the game? That's good enough for you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun. It's fun to talk about like the last 6 months of my life in another perspective, So thanks for having me. And also,
of course,
just mostly like follow my page on the Steam, like the Kusppy Studios, right? That is the name of my studio. I'm gonna be posting more games and demos there, so be sure to follow. And also I have the studio like YouTube page where I post trailers and upcoming things, maybe some like devlog stuff, not really devlog because I know it's a lot of work, but some snippets and some things of the new game. So that's it.
And that was Mateus. Such a cool guy, such a chill guy, such a smart guy, very bright. I love talking to him. In particular, that mantra we kept coming back to about kind of finding the average between the ideal and what you can do and finding balance is an aura that he exudes in his conversational style, in the way he communicates, and of course in his game. It is a beautiful one. Go find The Last Lodge on Steam and buy it. It's only a few bucks, and you'd be supporting such a worthy creator. So I'll put all those links in the show notes that we mentioned, and please go do that. Even if you're not into the typical horror game, it is tense, and there are some spooky things going on, but there's not a ton of jump scares, and it was fairly manageable for someone like me who, isn't a horror diehard. So I think you'll enjoy it just if you like vibey, kind of life simmy things with some extra elements going on that make things spooky and tension-filled. You'll love it, so go support Mateus. Like I said at the beginning, I think the conversation was particularly instructive for folks who are feeling overwhelmed by the idea of potentially starting their own game projects. That's a place that I certainly have been pretty much every time I've considered making anything along those lines, but hearing about Mateus's experience, hearing his advice on how to get started and how to iterate and start small and find that average between your ideal and what you can do, and how that average increases every time you get into a routine, I think was really inspirational. And it actually overlaps with some of the interests I have been delving into more recently, I realized that a perfect way to kind of half pay attention to my most recent show fascination, which is of course the very strange, oftentimes bad, but very entertaining show Elementary from CBS. I'm watching on Hulu. I'm in season 2, and there's just a bajillion episodes of this take on Sherlock Holmes doing random things. I love a good mystery, but or a bad mystery in the case of this show a lot of the time. Anyway, I realized that a perfect thing to do during it is practice my pixel art. So I'll just like sometimes be trying to make my own characters just with like my little iPad setup, or sometimes I'll have like a reference image open on my laptop screen and be like trying to mimic that as much as I can. And in addition to that journey, as I've mentioned before on this show, The Drifter really inspired me to look into what would go into making an adventure game. And Dave Lloyd, the creator behind The Drifter, has this wonderful interface called Power Quest, which he used to make The Drifter, and he's made it available on itch.io for kind of a name your price model, which you definitely should consider paying for because it is a wonderful suite of tools that integrates into Unity and makes Unity a lot more manageable as an engine. Now, it's still not the ideal of like, look, you can just use your mouse to create an adventure game. You do have to be interested in poking around and experimenting and watching his tutorials and devlogs, but he's made it very accessible. And so I kind of hope maybe to dip my foot in the water of the adventure game genre if I can continue to progress with my pixel art and progress in learning what Power Quest is all about. But that's been inspiring for me. I also picked up RPG Maker at the spring Steam sale, and so maybe I'll tool around with that a little bit. But it's cool to think about like doing this show and trying to make a game alongside it. One of the ways that I've been thinking about games and game making is as a framework for storytelling. So I think one of the things that I talked about with Pete of Chase Star Unlimited, who made Asbury Pines, is how cool it was to write with constraints in that project, since he was kind of the main writer and his partner was doing a lot of the coding. And that idea has really motivated me to learn more about these programming interfaces, to provide these kind of built-in limits or built-in frameworks within which I can write. And that is a way that really fascinates my mind, and I think a way that would activate my creativity in a sense that would be super fulfilling. So I'm going to continue to look into that. I'll be providing updates on my Power Quest journey, my pixel art journey and stuff occasionally here, and occasionally on my Instagram. I'll post stories of the pixel art and stuff, which is at Indie Game Garden. But another really exciting announcement is I am going to have the voice actor who did Mick from The Drifter on the show later on one of these days. We're still figuring out the scheduling, but that's Adrian Vaughn. And then I'm also going to have Dave Lloyd, the creator of The Drifter and of Power Quest and all of these inspirational tools on as well. So the kind of closing note I wanted to leave this show with is today when I was waking up, I was feeling a little lethargic, feeling a little, one of those days where you get up on the wrong side of the bed and life feels gray. And I wasn't sure about the interview. I was maybe hoping that some, scheduling conflicts would happen and we couldn't connect. But, the second Mateus came on the screen, he came on with energy and joy and just an obvious passion for games that I connect with super, super deeply. And that's what keeps me coming back to this show. But it's also given me so much like purpose and joy in life, even just over the last couple weeks, last couple months. And so I'm so grateful to you all for following along. If you've made it this far, it's likely that you're enjoying what I'm putting out, and that means the world to me. I think so often that like doing a podcast in particular, but making anything feels like you're kind of just screaming into the void sometimes. And it just means a lot that you're still here. So if you enjoy the show, please try to help me grow the community by just telling one friend. I don't do anything to advertise the show, so word of mouth is key. And I'm going to keep making these episodes, so I hope folks can keep listening. I mentioned my Instagram before. You can also give me a follow on YouTube, or subscription, whatever they call it, at Indie Game Garden. I'm also on Blue Sky at Darth Malks. Please join the community. I love talking to people. I love just being a part of something creative and big and vibrant. And that's what I'm finding with this show. So I'm going to keep doing it. I love it. I love you. Thanks for listening. Bye.